Hey guys, my name is Philip, I'm a filmmaker, and today I'm going to be reviewing Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Square Enix graciously sent me a full review copy last week, and I've been enjoying the game so much. I actually have never played this game. I never had a PSP, and as you know, I love Final Fantasy VII and FF in general. The interesting thing about this is it is a complete remaster, and what they've done is, I think the most beautiful thing that they've done here is they've united the aesthetic of Final Fantasy VII Remake and this game. So what it does is it gives us consistency when you play the games, and it's a really beautiful experience. It's just gorgeous. So as far as a remaster goes, it is a incredible experience. I think one of the best remasters I've ever played, absolutely. Now, as far as this review goes, I'm going to be breaking it down by general thoughts, narrative, cinematography, world building, characterization, acting, stuff like that. So I do want to say there are going to be spoilers in this review, just so I'm able to talk about the story and everything. If you want a bit of a spoiler-free look at my thoughts on just chapters 1 and 2, you can find that on my channel. So before we get into it, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more like this. And yeah, thank you so much. We're almost at 16,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. The main strengths here are the visuals are mind-boggling. And I have to say, it was so hype to see, for example, like Sephiroth meeting Jenova and everything. These scenes that we're going to see in Remake and Rebirth, it was crazy to see it. I was so hyped up. Just the Nibelheim going there with Sephiroth and stuff was insane. So I am just so excited for the future of FF7. This adds so much, and it solidifies the legacy of Zack. So, general thoughts. This is an incredible remaster. As I said, one of the best I've played. I already mentioned the visuals, which we'll be talking about a lot, but the second thing is the gameplay. From what I've heard, this game was clunky. It was a really, old game, and there was some very interesting systems. I think most of the problem was Tabata, the director, who has since been fired from Square Enix. That's all I'll say there. And they've improved the battle system to mimic this feeling of FF7 Remake, just like the visuals do, and it is absolutely incredible. Such a glorious, kinetic energy as you fight, and you can see some battle footage here. Like, it has this nice crunchy feeling as he swings his sword, and when later you get the Buster Sword, even more so. But I think they really, really nailed just the entire experience, and the gameplay feels really fun. And I was surprised, I actually got addicted to a lot of the side missions and everything. It's just so much fun to fight in this game. And I was really impressed because I had heard, the battle system in this game was very clunky and outdated. So there you go. It says it all. They've updated it. It's so much fun. So please try it if you like the gameplay in FF7 Remake. It is a little bit different. There's no ATB kind of slowdown and cinematic slowdown, but it has its own charm. And honestly, I think the DMW Mindwave is really fun. I seriously enjoyed it. All right, so now we're going to talk about the narrative. I think this game is really interesting. There's a lot of pressure on it being the prequel to Final Fantasy VII. What I will say is two things. This is a game that was a PSP game, so it can be very strange to see it with this perfect PS5 level graphics, FF7 Remake style. But you have to remember, this is from an old clunky handheld game that had very limited storage for cutscenes and for voice acting. All right, another thing to note about the narrative is this is also from a time where voice acting direction was completely different, almost the opposite of what it is now. They would say you need to imitate the Japanese voice actors. It sounds incredibly unnatural. In this new one, it's a lot better. These are some of the symptoms that can hold back just the level of story they can do. And I don't mean the quality of the story, I mean the length of the story. They just can't have that many cutscenes in a PSP game. So, that being said, the story is great. It's really cool. It has its wacky moments and everything, and because of the limited time for cutscenes, there's a couple scenes where they will kind of dump a lot of exposition on you, pretty much for time. And it's interesting because a lot of the characters like Angeal, particularly Genesis, are super interesting characters, and they actually sell very well. Genesis sells incredibly better in this remaster. One of the reasons for is the new voice acting. And all the actors just did such a great performance. And like I said before, there's this unity to it because it has the same cast as Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it is so nice that when all of it is said and done, when remake, rebirth, and re-something come out, and this exists, you'll be able to listen to it all and play it all and see the story with the same cast, and that is super important for just immersion. But this new cast is amazing. I think they elevate everybody, especially Genesis, who sounded very unnatural, because not only are they having him, imitate sort of the vibe of the Japanese, which, we don't speak like that. Every culture speaks differently, right? So it sounded very unnatural. But Genesis is also, this kind of like guy who's reciting poetry and epic poetry and everything constantly. So it just added like another layer of unnaturalness to it. But the new stuff with him is really well done, and it came out fantastically. Of course, you have here Cloud and Zack on the screen, and they made for just such wonderful scenes, and especially stuff like the ending, these very tragic scenes. These two, Caleb and Cody, sold it so much better. I mean, I love Rick Gomez. I love the old cast as well, but these guys really elevated it, again, mostly due to the direction. So that's my general thoughts on the narrative and the acting and the performances, but also, yeah, you're gonna love Genesis a lot more. At least I did, and I think you guys will too. And I actually got kind of excited to see Genesis going forward, what his role is going to be in Rebirth or beyond. I think Genesis is such an interesting character, like this idea of a classicist, like scholar obsessed with epic poetry, who's like trying to delve into it, who's also like this modified person who's super strong and, has to deal with this idea of degrading and, trying to live as a monster. And it's a super interesting thing. Of course, like I said, the limitations of the PSP are that he doesn't get a lot of time. So what they had to do, which I think was a slightly misguided choice, is they just focused 100% on that angle, reciting Loveless constantly. So what it does is he's kind of a one-trick pony in the story. It's all he does. And the scenes are still really compelling. So I guess my point is, it would be super interesting to see him in a new format for a couple different reasons. I mentioned the performances are better, but the script is the same for this game. So it's still in that PSP old localization era of script, but with the better performances. So my point being, if we were to see Genesis in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or beyond, which I think we will, he is not only going to have a superior performance to that old style, but he's also going to have a superior localization script. It's going to read so much more natural, and we won't have the limitations of the PSP to hold back just the potential of this character, of all these characters, as we've already seen in FF7 Remake. Look at Bumblebee and look at all these awesome things. Everybody's expanded, so I think the same will happen with Genesis. He will read more naturally, and I think people are going to like him a lot more. I thought he was super cool going through it, and that's just me kind of, my filmmaking brain thinking of, so many opportunities for scenes with him here and there, expanding his character and everything. So that's my thoughts on Genesis, and I think everybody's gonna like him a lot more going forward. So it's really awesome to see the world building that this gives Final Fantasy VII. I think it adds a lot to it. Of course, Zack being the main set piece, he is almost a non-character, as I always say in FF7 OG. He is not, this super central character to it. So it's really nice to see this important character to the whole saga of Cloud's story get his due, and to be expanded upon. But also, Aerith gets so much in this, and it's great to see Aerith's younger life. We do get snippets in the remake, but it's so awesome to see their relationship kind of blossom, and, we see why Zack is so important to Aerith when she talks about it in remake. When she goes to the park, when she does all these things, seeing and how complicated it must feel for her to see the shadows of Zack in Cloud, and how sad that would be, but also, it would make her happy, it would make her remember stuff. So how complicated that would be for someone who loves Zack. And I think they really did a great job of giving us a little bit more characterization for Aerith and her young life. So it's awesome. As far as the world building with the lore goes, I think they did a great job also with kind of filling in the blanks, and also expanding the world a little bit. For example, First Soldier. There's only a couple first class soldiers, Sephiroth and Jill, Genesis. But before that, it was just Sephiroth, right? Zack and Sephiroth. That's all we knew about. So it's really nice to have these other characters, and even second class soldiers. You have Kunsel and all these other people. So it's really cool to see the world expanded in that way, and just kind of the underbelly of Shinra, the Turks. We have Cisne, so many cool new characters that I again really hope they put like Cisne and these other people in Remake, because she was a new character for this game. And even though at the end it kind of seems like Cisne is sort of questioning her duty as a Turk and everything, I really hope she is in Remake, because they could also do this cool opportunity to have Cisne interact with Cloud, and similarly to Aerith, see shadows of Zack and be confused. And I think it'd be really cool. So that was awesome. Next, I'm going to talk about the music. I think Takehiro Ishimoto's music is really good when he does work like the sort of like rock style songs that are in this. I think it's his best work. It always has been. His orchestra stuff is all pretty cool as well. He does a cool version of One Winged Angel that's in there when you fight Sephiroth and stuff. I thought that was really nice to kind of, he downplayed One Winged Angel a little bit, which was nice because you don't want to take away from the massive orchestral power of, like, you know, the final fight with Sephiroth much later in the story, right? So he kind of did this like reducted version of it, and I really like that as an idea. I will say the problem with the music is more the director, and Tabata is the worst offender in the history of video games with misusing his music that his composers give him. See Final Fantasy 15, getting probably one of the greatest songs ever in Final Fantasy, Somnus, and he literally does not use it. Tabata does not use the song in the game, and when he uses it, it just plays for like 15 seconds as you walk into this random scene. It's ridiculous, right? So he's no different here. He completely misuses the music. Again, this is an artifact of his direction from back in the day, particularly within the Nibelheim incident. There's a couple scenes where the music it doesn't really fit at all. It's just this kind of like very basic like electronic music beat, and instead it's like this incredible character moment for Sephiroth and stuff. It just does not fit, and that was definitely a ball drop. But again, not really the composer's fault. He was probably just not told to make a song for this scene, and they were like, oh, just put in whatever we have, right? So he does great work on the scenes where he's able to to fit it. Again, could be even something as simple as the PSP's the UMD storage, right? They couldn't fit as many songs or whatever, but I'm more quick to attribute to Tabata's bad direction, quite honestly. Next, I'm going to talk about the dialogue. The dialogue is actually pretty good in this for the most part. Like I said, it suffers more from the localization end by being like too literal of a Japanese translation and not being localized, which is, again, like the real test of a good dub is, does it work within our culture? Are they just kind of copy pasting Japanese idioms and stuff that we don't understand, therefore it's completely lost on us in a bad localization? Or are they making it fit to our culture, finding solutions that are meaningful to us and stuff like that, right? So this one from that era is a little bit closer to the first option there, sadly, but I think the dialogue is still really good. You know, it's a little stilted at times, particularly the Genesis stuff, but again, I think with the new performances, it adds a lot to the dialogue, and I think we will see in FF7 Remake going forward, again, better portrayal of these same ideas. And even like Tifa, who you can see on screen right now, she was great. It was awesome to have, as I said, the new cast. So we have Britt Baron, Brianna White as Aerith, Cody as Cloud, and so it's just so awesome to hear this, because it now when I go back and play Remake, like, it already adds a lot of layers to it, as opposed to a disconnected older cast and an older aesthetic. Like even the costume upgrades from Remake are here and stuff, so that's really cool. Now I'm gonna give my final thoughts. Again, I think it's a fantastic remaster. I mean, the weaknesses I spoke of are artifacts from a different time, from the limitation of the hardware and the limitation of the director, but that director's gone now, and they've, you know, done better in a lot of those areas that had some weaknesses. So I can't wait to see what happens next in this story with Rebirth. And again, you know, in 10 years, 15 years, whatever, it would be awesome to go back and play this, and then play everything straight through and have this just huge catalog of story for this entire saga. So that's my basic thoughts. Thank you again so much, Square Enix. I had an absolute blast playing this. Me and Aaliyah had a lot of fun, and she even enjoyed watching me just, you know, addictively run through all the side missions and fight all the enemies and stuff. Again, the battle system is so fun. And there's this crunching sound when he swings the Buster Sword that is just awesome. So please check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and catch me tonight on Baby Seal's show, SEAL Team 7. We're going to be talking about this game. Going to be going over some awesome ideas, and I can't wait. Hope to see you guys there. Thank you again, Square Enix. Appreciate everything.